Today, my guest on the show is longtime friend and training partner, Matt Brown, who, in my opinion, has some of the sickest elbows in the MMA industry. And I should know because through the years of sparring with him, I've been hit with quite a few of those things. Now at the age of 41, Matt and I have a candid discussion about his overall career. And interestingly enough, at this age, the biggest deterrents to him not training, for example, would be things like fatherhood or entrepreneurship, not his body breaking down. So I asked Matt what it would be like if the 41-year-old version of him met the Matt Brown of his youth. And I asked this because he's one of the most polarizing people I've ever met. Matt has an obsessive personality, and Matt Brown today is obsessed with his career, with training, with the pursuit of excellence, to the point that he doesn't even drink alcohol. Matt Brown of his youth was obsessed with things like drugs and partying, to the point that those drugs landed him in prison. And that prison time he used as time to detox from an addiction to methamphetamines.
Quite frankly, it's kind of unusual.
It's quite Franklin.
Got it. Quite Franklin.
How are you today? It's good to see you.
I'm great, man. I'm glad it was today. I was sick all weekend, and I was like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to make it to the podcast, but I feel good today. So ready to rock and roll, bro.
Awesome, man. Well, we could have rescheduled if we needed to. Speaking of sickness, man, didn't you have pull out a fight last year because of COVID?
Yeah, I had COVID. Yeah.
How far into camp were you when that happened?
2 weeks before the fight, maybe a week before the fight.
Man, that stinks.
And I was probably in the best shape I'd ever been in. I mean, everything was just on point and feeling great. And by this worst part about it was by fight day, I felt fine.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the fight, feeling fine. Like I'm supposed to be in there right now.
Yeah.
And I'm fine.
That's gotta wear on you, man, mentally. I mean, really bad because you know how it is, especially I would imagine at this age, like putting your body through the abuse of a camp like that. There's a little piece of you that's like, man, that's a lot of wear and tear for no bread on the back end. You know what I mean?
Yes. But I love the wear and tear myself. I still can't get enough of it, man.
Oh no, I hear you. Yeah. How's your body? Like, have you downshifted? How's your body feeling? Speed, reflexes, all those kinds of things.
No, it feels great, man. To be honest, the only thing that maybe feels a little less is like it's harder to get my cardio where it once was.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that's too because, well, I mean, back in the day, like, I didn't have kids and didn't have businesses, and like literally all I did was train.
Yeah.
And so now I think the recovery and everything, I have more things going on, and your body's recovering slower.
Yeah.
So, but that's again when you get to the fight camp, that's about being able to prioritize and pushing everything else off to the side, and then I usually feel fine.
There's so many athletes I know, Matt, that'll spend the first 4 weeks of their fight camp getting in shape, like getting ready for the fight camp in essence.
Yes, exactly. I don't know, maybe more genetically gifted guys, I think probably are able to do that a lot better, that adapt a lot faster and already have so much gifts that all they have to do is be able to tap into those. Whereas someone like me, where I'm not really a genetically gifted guy, everything I've got is because I've worked hard and I like to think I'm pretty smart and everything. I train, basically over 300 days a year, every year. So when I get into fight camp, there's really not a big difference, to be honest. And especially owning a gym and coaching guys, like I'm helping guys get ready for fights all the time. And, with these killers coming up, I got to stay in shape. I don't want to help these guys and be out of shape, right? Because I'm going to just get my ass kicked. So I got to stay in shape all the time to help them. And it motivates me to stay in shape all the time also. And my coaches around me, they're really good about keeping me in shape and pushing me all the time. So when I get into camp, it's really about being able to do less work, more specific work, but do less. So I do the higher amount of work when I'm not in camp. And when I say camp, I mean usually like 6 to 8 weeks out. Usually I get a fight, 12 to 15 weeks out, and I'll pick it up, again, during around that time period, right? When I'm 12 weeks out, and get a good 4 or 6 weeks of really hard extra training, higher volume, a lot more running, a lot more swimming and overall general conditioning work. And then when I get into what's actually camp, everything tones down. And, I'm in and out of the gym in an hour, working on specific things, bringing in specific partners and putting in specific work.
Matt, when you are out of season, you don't have a fight, for example, how many training hours are you putting in a week versus when the fight gets announced, when you hit that volume phase versus those last 4 to 6 weeks, what you're referring to as fight camp? Like what do your training hours vary from in those 3 phases?
It would really depend on the week, right? Because if begin having different businesses and kids and everything, that's what takes away when I'm out of camp or out of when I don't have a fight schedule. When I have a completely free week, I'll put in more time when I don't have a fight than when I do have a fight. Whereas my breaks are when I have the kids, when they have things going on, when I have business stuff to do, different things like that. So there's not necessarily a specific time, but I train twice a day, at least 4 to 5 days a week. They're usually 1.5 to 2 hour sessions every time of work. Yeah. Not an hour and a half of being in the gym, an hour and a half of work. Yeah.
You count time like you count. That's how we've always counted time. Like I've spent plenty of time with you on the mat. It's like time doesn't start till you step on and step off, So the hand wrapping and all that stuff doesn't count as training.
That doesn't count. That's exactly right. And that's when a lot of people, they say, I put in the work. I'm in the gym 4 hours a day. It's like, dude, well, you're working for 30 minutes out of that 4 hours. Yeah. So, I'm working the whole time. I'm usually in the gym on an average day that I'm not, when I don't have a fight, I'm in the gym a good 6 to 8 hours a day. But that counts the time that I'm chatting with people, I'm talking with members and customers, working on business stuff, just hanging out, stretching, all that bull crap. And then I'll spend 3 to 4 hours of actual work.
Matt, let me I want to ask you, because we've talked about like aging and wearing and tearing and all that kind of stuff on the body. You had a fight, I think maybe it was after your Jake Ellenberger fight, was it? Did you have to go through the sensory deprivation at that point in time?
The sensory deprivation?
Yeah.
Like the float?
No, didn't you have to do the darkroom sensory deprivation due to concussion at that point?
Yeah, for concussions. So, no, that was actually the Johnny Hendricks fight.
Johnny Hendricks fight, okay.
Happened. Yeah, and that was probably the worst concussion I've ever had in my life. That was even during the fight, the room was spinning, and I was seeing like 2 Johnny Hendrickses. I remember I got up at one point to walk back to my corner, and it was spinning so much, like I didn't know where to walk. So I just started walking, and fortunately, in my corner, somehow it worked out that I landed in my corner.
Is the plural of Johnny Hendricks Johnny Hendry? I don't know. I don't know. So ponder on that. Get back to me on it. So anyway, you fortunately walked back to the right corner.
At the time, I didn't know what a concussion was. Like, I mean, a fucking professional fighter doesn't know what a concussion is, right? But, it just wasn't like something I thought about or really talked about. And I remember that night in the hotel, like I was puking. And I was like, God, like it wasn't even that tough of a fight, It wasn't like all I did was take me down and hold me the whole time, So I didn't think anything of it. Basically, every time I stood up, like if I was sitting here right now and I stood up, I would just get real dizzy and start falling over. And then one time in the middle of the night, I got up to go pee and I actually fell over and I couldn't get back up. Like I was just so dizzy. So I ended up going to the hospital the next day just to see what was going on. And of course, like I had a concussion. So I had to do the 10 days, like you said, the sensory deprivation, which come to find out after is actually not the best way to go about doing this. This is not the correct protocol. This is an old school, outdated protocol.
Explain that protocol to people, what you had to go through for 10 days.
So I had to sit in my room in the dark, no TV, no lights, every bit as bad as jail, which I've been to jail multiple times. And at least in jail, like, there's people you can talk to and you hang out and play cards and stuff.
Yeah, because you couldn't even read a book.
No, you're not supposed to read books or anything at all. So I just laid there for 10 days and didn't do a single thing. And the worst part is, my kids are downstairs playing And they're like, yeah, you can't go talk to dad, you got to leave him alone. And I'm sitting there like, dude, I just want to go play with my kids. And I actually did a couple times. And that was when I actually knew that it was really bad. Falling over, puking, and being dizzy didn't bother me as much as one time I remember I was talking to my son and I said something to him and he was like, what'd you say? And I looked at him and said, I have no idea what I just said. It just couldn't come back to me at all. So that was the point when I knew. I was like, okay, this is serious. I better go take it serious. So I went back to bed and laid in there for 10 days. And like you said, no lights, no TV, no books. It's the most boring thing ever. I did a lot of meditating.
It's crazy living on the other side of the planet in Southeast Asia. There are people that'll pay to go do these trips where they sit in a cave and just stare at a wall for 10 days. I had this guy, Sebastian Terry, on the show. He did this list of 100 things he wanted to do before he died. And he went an entire week without talking and eventually had to duct tape his mouth because you just go through and you're suddenly like, oh, I've seen that movie type of thing. And he's like, I got to start over. So, yeah.
I heard about that on the Tim Ferriss podcast, actually.
Cool guy, man. But yeah, I remember when you were going through that at the time and that was tough stuff. Have you ever done just a tentative count of how many concussions you've had in your career? Because this became a real concern for me.
I've never even thought about it, to be honest. I know for a fact I've had a couple of concussions. Jake Ellenberger, I did have a concussion after that one, but that was when I met a different doctor. I was living in Denver at the time, and he's a neuroscientist. He opened a gym out there. Name's not coming to me right now, but it was specifically for brain health. He's a brilliant guy. Dr. Chad is his name. A brilliant guy, and he had a completely different protocol for concussion. One of the things that was what originally got me into the keto diet, because there is a lot of research showing, at least for mice, it's good for the TBI, the traumatic brain injury and things like that. And he was a big proponent of it. He got me into that. So yeah, it was, he was sort of a life changer for me in that sense. And he helped me a lot with the concussions after that. But, Lord knows how many we've had, right? I mean,
yeah,
we train hard, man.
Like I did a count at one point in time, and I think for myself, I counted 8 in competition. And this includes fights that I've won, because I got dropped in the Vanderlei fight. I got dropped in the second Evan Tanner fight, the second Vanderlei fight. And I even got wobbled in the first Vanderlei fight. I don't know if I would consider that a concussion. Now, I never had a ton of post-concussion symptoms like vertigo, dizziness, vomiting, loss of appetite. The only thing that I ever experienced on any of the concussions I ever had was memory loss for that specified amount of time, which for me was somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour when I would go into the locker rooms, right? So and you'll hear George tell a funny story when we were in Japan the first time I got knocked out. And we had those custom mouthpieces. I had that mouthpiece from Unbreakable and loved my mouthpieces. And so after the fight, I'd be like, I was like concerned about where my mouthpiece was. And I asked this question about 3 or 4 times, and George had never experienced, we'd never experienced anything like this. And he got like really worried. And then you get to the point where you start asking questions like, okay, I know I asked you guys this, but what happened? Like how did the fight unfold? And so that would go on for about an hour, but after an hour I would shake it off. But what happened to me, and the reason why I was asking you about this, is because right around, I guess around the time I hit 40, like my memory and like things started changing, and I was getting really nervous. And actually Beth was the one that pointed it out. She's like, man, you sound like you are slurring your speech in some of your interviews that you're doing. So I went to a brain center and had myself checked out, and they did all these things. They put these goggles on me and measured the movements in my eye and these balance, like all these different protocols, memory protocols and everything. And in the end, they basically said, like, Rich, look, I think your problem is more that you're not focused on the situation that you're in. Like, my head is all over the place and I'm trying to do 3 things at once. If I'm trying to like send a text while I'm talking to you right now, and you know what I mean? And so yeah. I was doing things like I would get ready to leave my house and have my keys in my hand and then go into the refrigerator and be like, I need to grab a water, and then set my keys down in the refrigerator to grab the water, and then start to walk out and then spend the next 45 minutes looking for my keys. But it's because my mind wasn't like focused on things. And so There was a point in time that I was really scared, and especially after the second Vanderlei fight, like I remember going like, okay, I'm in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, you know, it's Saturday, and you know, and like running through all these, like, okay, you know, like another one. And so I didn't know if like you had, from the concussion stuff, had any kind of scare like that where you were like, man, am I pushing my luck? Because that Hendricks fight, what year was that?
13, 14,
Yeah.
maybe 15, somewhere in that time period.
So nothing residual after you did the protocol after that?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, no one gets out of this game unscarred, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I knew what I signed up for, and I love this shit, man. And you know, that's not going to slow me down at all. And realistically, I don't know exactly what happened in that fight to make that specific concussion so bad. Like I know when it happened, he slammed me, and I landed on my back actually, and that was when I started being kind of dizzy and stuff. So, but I've been hit way harder than that. I mean, Cowboy knocked me completely the fuck out. I mean, he kicked me in my head, practically kicked my head off. And I mean, I woke up and I was like, I still to this day remember seeing his foot about 2 inches from my face. You know, it's like I didn't have any memory loss. I woke up and I was like, damn, I guess I didn't win that one if I'm waking up right now. You know, so
I remember for like both the Evan Tanner and the Vanderlei fights, like both of those fights, I completely lost rounds. Like in the Vanderlei fight, after I got dropped at the end of the second round, like I was on cruise control for rounds 3 and 4. And I've told this story before. It actually pisses me off because I look better in rounds 3 and 4 when I didn't know what I was doing than I did when I was actually trying to execute my game plan. But I remember sitting down between rounds in the stool on, you know, after the 4th round, I'm sitting there and I could hear like my coach's voice is just starting to, wah, 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 you need to move your feet, get your hands up, you know, it's like the Charlie Brown thing. And then suddenly I just go like this. I go, all right, guys, I'm back. Like I can remember like distinctly saying that to them in the match, and they're like, all right, let's get to work. So yeah, it's kind of scary stuff.
That's badass, man. The only time I've experienced anything similar to that was when I fought Wonder Boy. And I remember I was actually out on my feet at one point, and you could see in the fight, it just wore me out. Really, it didn't really faze me that much. But I don't remember much of anything in the last round or last 2 rounds. I think it was in the second round where, I mean, I was just completely out on my feet, and I just woke up and I was like, I'm still here, so let's keep going. But I still remember things from the fight. So I don't know. You know, it's funny. Are you part of the Cleveland Clinic study?
No.
Do you know what study? Okay. So there's a study they're doing. I think there's 700 combat athletes, like boxers, UFC fighters, and professional athletes. I've been a part of it since probably 2010, 2011. It may not even still be going on. I haven't been out there for a couple of years, but I originally signed up for it just to get the free MRI because you have to go get the CAT scan or whatever for your brain. So I signed up for it just to get that, and they fly you out to Vegas for free and all this. So, but anyway, I did it for, I think it was 6, maybe 7 years, and my brain actually got better. My cognitive abilities increased over that time. My reaction times increased. Everything, every marker, like they were blown away. They were like, what is this? So like, you know, I think I was 38 years old last time I went out there, maybe 39. Yeah. And they're like, how did you get better? Like you've had, you know, 15, 20 fights or whatever. And you're actually, your scores are getting better. So
are they giving you like drills or things to do for neurogenesis or creating new neural pathways, or how?
No, they don't give you any drills. They literally just do the tests and that's it, as far as I know.
Were you doing any kind of specific drills for your brain, for reaction time, because you mentioned the keto diet before, which I wanted to actually ask you about?
Yeah. You know, I've done some drills and like, you know, games on the phone. I have these lights, you know, the little touch things.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think they help, to be honest. I've done tons of that kind of stuff and I just don't think it helps. And there is some research behind it. I looked into a little bit and basically what happens, at least, you know, in the research that I read, they say, you get better at that skill, but it doesn't translate over to being better at any other skills. And it's not necessarily increasing your cognitive function or anything. And that's just my own interpretations of what I've read so far. I could totally be wrong. But I think the keto diet has probably helped me more than anything else. And I only do it nowadays. I only do it for a few weeks after a fight. If I get hit pretty hard a couple times in a fight or in training, I'll do it for a few weeks, get into ketosis. I actually work with a company called Ketone Aid where they have ketone esters that I'll take and just try to, hopefully that does something. It feels to me like it does. Like I do feel more cognitively aware or better functioning when I'm on that diet. I don't perform as well. I don't think it's a good diet at all for athletes, but cognitively I do feel better. So I do make sure to do that if I get hit hard.
I had Dr. Sean Baker on who wrote the carnivore diet, and I did the carnivore diet for I went straight carnivore, only meat. I ate meat for 3 weeks and that was it. And I on the one hand, I enjoyed it on the one hand because it's what I like to eat. I was very satiated. I was eating ribeye pretty much every meal. I did eat eggs also. But I wasn't eating any plant vegetables, fruits, or anything like that. Then 3 weeks in, I noticed that my performance in the gym was dropping. So I started putting a little bit of fruit in, but still nonetheless, all I was eating is this ribeye steak. And so I noticed for me that I need the carbohydrates. I think my body primarily uses that for fuel. So where I ended up netting out, because you know how I am about my nutrition, man. I've always been on top of that. And prior to doing the carnivore diet, I probably sat somewhere around 40 to 50% of my calories came from starchy carbs. And now post carnivore diet, well, technically I've always been carnivore diet because the bulk of my calories do come from animal product. But post this carnivore stint that I did, I would say about 15% of my calories a day come from carbohydrates, and that's it.
Are you still training like really hard, pushing yourself regularly?
Not like you are, not twice a day type of thing, but I typically train once a day. And when I go into the gym, so like I have to travel this week, and I went into the gym yesterday because of that, and I don't normally work out on Sundays, but I went in and I had to go in on my own, and I did this leg workout, and my legs, I smashed them. I distinctly remember when I was in the gym, because I did this superset with these back step lunges and squats, and I did this whole pyramid set, and I knew when I started, I'm like, this is gonna be my workout and it's gonna suck, and I got about 5 sets in it, and I'm looking in the mirror and asking myself why do I grind like this? Not like why, I don't want to, but it's what makes me this way, when I am in the gym, that I'm just grinding at this peak level that I can possibly push myself through. So yeah, I'm still in the gym grinding hard, several days a week, but not as many hours as you are.
Nice. Yeah. And I think it's in our blood, man. I find myself even a week after a fight, I'll be bored or something. Okay, just gotta go to the gym. Once I get warmed up, man, there's no stopping me, that's just the way my mind works. I think there's something we train so long or a certain way for so long, our brains are just wired. After you're warmed up, it's fucking go time, man. And you can't even stop yourself.
Well, you said the key word there about warm up, because when I'm in the gym now, what used to take me 5 or 10 minutes to get warmed up is now, especially if I'm doing legs, on a leg day where I'm lifting, dude, it's I'm probably 20 to 25 minutes deep before I hit my true first working set, just getting myself moving. And that's the difference. The thing is though, once I'm actually moving, I feel like I can train I'm still 25. My reaction time, my reflexes, still all that stuff feels good. But you nailed it before. It's the recovery time at this age that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah. And that's, I think, also a balance of, that's where my coaches come in very well. They keep me from overdoing it. They tell me just get the hell out of here, because I will, right? Once we get warmed up, I can't stop, man. I don't, my brain, it's like yours, my brain's just going. I'm no, I need to work on this. I need to work on this.
Yeah.
This isn't good. It's not enough.
That's what a coach is for. Coaches are there. if you're a true athlete, coaches are there to pull the reins on you, man. Like that's what they're for, to slow you down, to keep you from damaging yourself.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a tough thing to find those coaches too, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many of them just want to push you over the limit, right? And they're like, do more. Now, there are certain athletes, I think, that need that, because a lot of them don't do enough, right? So they need that coach to push them to do that stuff. But for me, sure, it's the same for you. Like, I need that coach that's going to tell me to stop, get the hell out of here, drink some chocolate milk, go home.
Yep, exactly. So on your nutrition, then, let me ask you about this. How often do you do cheat meals, earned meals? Do you drink alcohol, any of that kind of stuff, especially at this age?
I rarely drink alcohol. I'm just not really into it. I don't think there's really much of a place for it in a professional athlete's life. In terms of like the cheat meals, earned meals, honestly, I don't really think about it that much. Like, I'm so in tune with my diet. I've been doing it for so long. Like, I don't even have a desire for that stuff, really. And I stay in shape so much. I stay in the gym and work so much, so hard. Like, if I'm out at a social gathering or something and there's just burgers there to eat, it's fine with me. It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't affect my weight drastically. Now, when I get into a camp and it's actually time to start cutting weight, like, most of my weight loss is done specifically, or most of my nutrition, is done specifically for performance and for weight loss. It's not, I don't really get, I think I'm fortunate that my body is just right at that perfect weight where I don't really have to drastically cut too much. I'm cutting a lot. Like, it's hard. It's very, very hard. But if I do everything right, it's really easy. So I don't really have to overdo my nutrition too much. I keep it really freaking simple, man. I eat rice usually 2-3 times a day, eggs in the morning, chicken at night. In the afternoon, I'll kind of play around and, maybe have something for fun. Maybe some red meat or something, maybe some sausage. It's very, very simple for me. And with all this said, carbohydrates is all I focus on, really. I make sure I get enough protein throughout the day, that I'm maintaining, not losing anything. But I just eat carbohydrates all day, clean carbohydrates. Rice is number one, eat it all day, oatmeal, maybe a little bit of like potatoes and things like that. But I guess I've just done it so long, it's just simple, man. I think people way, way overcomplicate it. I hate, nothing against you. I hate the carnivore diet. I hate the keto stuff. I hate all these Eric Berg type people, these doctors coming out, Paul Saladino, these guys promoting this bullshit that, these people are losing weight because they're cutting their calories, right? And now if it works that way for you, and look, this is a way to cut your calories, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But I think I fell into that, and I did 2 fights actually, full keto, because I thought that this was the magic thing. I was like, no one's doing it. I got the fucking key. I got the thing no one else knows. And one of them was Cowboy. I got knocked the fuck out for it. So
yeah. I tell you what, like, Mike Dolce's been a good friend of mine for years, and I like his nutritional philosophy. He's like, it's like, eat whole foods. And if you're eating whole foods, if you're not eating things like chips and, empty carbs and things of that nature, you're going to eat until you're satiated. And so for me, eating things like eggs or steak, like a ribeye steak or even a chicken breast or whatnot, that will, like, these things are full of proteins. Like, I don't know how often, I don't know anybody that got, for example, fat on eating too much chicken breast, or even if you're eating even eating dark meat, right? Like, it's okay. So it's higher in fat. It's like, even if if all you ate was, like, I don't know, ground beef that wasn't that lean, and that's all you ate in a day, there's going to come a point where your body's like, I'm done. Unlike drinking a soda, for example, where you can just continue consuming when it's sugar. And so, what I always tell people when I'm giving nutritional advice is that for me, it's all about manipulating your carbohydrates. And I think that the problem we have in society is that carbohydrates are a simple food. They're very satiating, at least for a temporary basis, and people overeat them, right? So you could sit down in front of a TV and eat a bag of chips. Well, you've just consumed only carbohydrates, which for the human body is a fuel that your body needs to burn for exercise. And it's like, well, if you're going to sit and watch Netflix all night, eating chips is the worst thing you can do because your body doesn't need any fuel at that point in time. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't disagree with you, but, and I'll say this too, everybody's is unique, where I end up netting out with my 15% of my calories coming from carbs is where I feel like that's about the minimum carbohydrate I need in order to get through the physical activity that I have on a weekly basis. I guarantee that if I was to hit a fight camp type of thing, like the volumes portion of the fight camp we were talking about before, that percentage of calories would definitely increase from 15 to something else, just because, I burn through carbs. Genetically, I know I do. I'm just at this age where I can't just go straight carnivore, for example, or keto or paleo or any other kind of diet. It's like, I got to give my body what it needs when it needs. And that's what everybody else needs to do. It's just that people are addicted to things that aren't whole foods. And that's where they get in trouble.
Yeah. And I don't even give nutritional advice anymore. If someone asks me about nutrition, I tell them calories in, calories out, figure it out. Because they're not going to do it, man. Like, that's one thing I've learned. Everybody, the reason that all these diets, keto, carnivore, Mediterranean, all this shit, the reason it got so popular is because everybody wants that shortcut, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody wants something that they want. Louis told me the greatest thing ever. We were at the Arnold's one day. The Arnold's was going on. Everybody goes to West Side, and he's sitting there for hours and hours, just talking to people, telling them everything he does. And I asked Louis, like, man, like, why do you tell everybody your secrets? Like, he has the strongest gym in the world. Like, you got to hold that. He's like, well, they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Right. And when you think about it, like West Side, dude, they have the articles, they got the books, they film their training. They tell you, like, you can subscribe to their email newsletter and they tell you exactly what they did every day. But why are they the strongest gym in the world? Because they actually do it. Like, when they say they're doing 50 reps, they do 50. They might do 51 or 52. When I tell someone else to go do 50 reps, they do 45, maybe 40. And that's the difference maker. So now when I go to the gym and my coach says, okay, we're doing 10 reps, I'll do 11. When he says kick the bag 100 times, I do 101. And I think that's the big difference maker. When you're looking at, 300 days a year of training, twice a day, that's 600 training sessions. That's 600 more kicks than I just threw than you. I
can remember early in my career not wanting to divulge, for example, how I conditioned, and because, you and I, we've been in camps together. And so, I was big on heart rate monitors and I had systems where I could drop my heart rate from the mid 180s down to 130 in 60 seconds. And in that recovery time, even when you're in the ring and you're taking a step back to take just a breath or two or whatever, it's like, well, if we've peaked out our heart rates and I'm able to just bring mine down a little lower than yours, it gives me that advantage. Right. And so, and I never wanted to divulge that information early in my career. And then I started talking about it. I'm like, people aren't going to do it. Like, people can't train as hard as I train, I can tell you exactly what I'm going to do, but the question is can you grind in the gym like I grind? And you can't. And that's why I was successful the way that I was successful, and other people that are successful, they have their own systems as well, so it's not like somebody's going to steal my stuff and be able to beat me with my own stuff. Now, there's a difference between that and obviously like showcasing your techniques and people being like, okay, well, now I know how to approach this game. I know what his game plan is for the fight. I came out with a clinch instructional recently through dynamic striking. And that was my hesitation. They'd reached out to me years ago to do this. And I was always like, dude, I don't want everybody to see what I'm going to do. And then I listened to Marcelo Garcia one day. He was talking about this, and he was talking about this camp that he had for ADCC. And it was when he first started the MG in Action website, right? If people don't know about this, it's the website where you can watch Marcelo train. Mm-hmm. And he gives out all of his techniques and everything. And he filmed
excuse me, he filmed every session, every training session, everything that he did. And they asked him in an interview for ADCC, they said, well, don't you think people are going to know what your game is? And he said, if they're studying my game, they're already in my game. And
Nice.
that was just so profound for me. So like when I put out my clinch instructional, I thought, okay, instead of trying to hide all these techniques, how about I tell them what I'm going to do, and then try to stop it.
You're just going to do what you do better than what they do. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, are you going to, okay, now you know the technique. Are you going to train it for an hour after every session? Are you going to bring in multiple partners? You're going to have 5 guys rotating in on you, clinching, pulling on your neck every day. Are you going to come back when your neck is sore as shit the next day? Are you going to figure out the things that I figured out? Are you going to get the feel that I have? No, you're going to think that you know how to clinch, and then you're going to be in my game, and I'm going to do it better than you.
What year was it that you came into Georgia school for the first time, Matt?
It would have been 08 because 07, because I got on the Ultimate Fighter in 08. Now, I was probably there before that. I mean, I would drive down as often as I could. I don't know. You may not even remember seeing me. Like, I was just kind of in the corner, like God, there's Rich Franklin as my hero, and there's George. And
I want to tell a funny story. I'm sure you probably remember this because you and I've talked about it since. But so Matt came into the gym. Then this was early, and we were working one time, and we got them working, and I worked him over. This was at George's. It was probably 07, and he looked at me. He goes, did I do something to piss you off? Did I make you mad? And I said, no, man, I'm just working. Why? He's like, okay. Then I fast forward about 4 years later, I come up to Matt's gym up in Columbus, and we were working out, and he was like peak shape for a fight too and everything. Man, I was struggling to keep up, and he worked me over a bit. And I looked at him jokingly, and I was like, Matt, did I do something to piss you off? Like what goes around comes around.
I think I told you why I asked you that, right?
No, I can't remember.
Well, I'll tell you. So you may not remember, but that was one of your first sessions after you fought Anderson Silva.
Oh yeah.
So I think that may have been the first time I ever sparred with you. And in my head, I thought, well, his fucking weakness is the clinch. So I went in and all I tried to do was clinch you. And I mean, you defended the clinch very well, and you fucked me up, and I remember all that. But in my head, I was thinking he knew that I wanted to clinch him, and he was trying to take advantage of his weakness, that is the clinch. And I learned right then. I was like, well, it's not really his weakness, just Anderson's really good at it. And
yeah, we had post that fight with Hume, actually, we had worked a lot of clinch stuff. And, I made a lot of strategic errors before that match with Anderson. We completely neglected clinch training. And I thought, God, if he clinches me, I'm just going to work him over because I'm so much physically bigger than him, which obviously wasn't the case. And then so the moment Hume got a hold of me, and I'm sure you've done a lot of his clinch series work as well, like he completely changed my clinch game. And that was about the time that you and I started working together. But no, as you know me now, that's not the kind of thing that would piss me off. I would be like, thank you for trying to, sharpen the iron here. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Well, then hold on. Then why did you beat the crap out of me a few years later?
I don't know. Like I get in training sessions, man, and I do that. So, like if I get a little ahead, it's an ego thing, man, and I do try to control it, and that's a real thing, and I'm sure you understand this because when you get in the gym, man, sometimes. Well, I've changed my training up a lot since back in those days. Back in those days,
School of Hard Knocks.
like okay, I would say, well, if you're going to be a marathon runner, what do? You go run marathons. You're going to be a swimmer, you go swim. If you want to be a fighter, you go fight. So when I'd go to the gym, I thought, okay, we're fighting. Yeah. And that's how I'm going to get better at fighting. And I tell all my guys, like, I don't want the guy that Matt Brown was. I don't want him in my fucking gym right now.
Yeah.
But that guy that I was, I mean, it was part of my success, I think. But that was my mentality was I'm going to the gym to fight, and I want the best guy in this gym, and I'm going to try to fight him, and I'm going to try to murder him.
I'm just playing with you anyway, man. We were in the gym that day, and we were working, and you had a good day that day, and I did not. So you worked me over pretty good.
Yeah, that happened.
Exactly, that happened. So I'm just giving you crap.
Yeah.
So when you came into George's gym in 07, how long had you been actually training in martial arts at that time?
I started like real training in like 04, maybe like 03. I had maybe 5 or 6 fights before that, but I didn't actually train for them, like backyard training, or a lot of times in my early days, like I would quit partying for like 2 weeks and that was my training.
But when you say partying, because you were a much different person back then, man, like what kind of partying you talking?
I put it in, bro. It was, if it was available, I was doing it.
Yeah.
I did every drug under the sun, everything you could imagine, in excess. I don't think there's a single drug that you can name that I probably haven't done in excess.
For somebody to go from that position in life to being where you are now, where you're like, alcohol has no place in my life, for example, what causes that transition, man?
Yeah, there wasn't like one specific turning point, other than maybe I decided at some point, like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a fighter, and I'm going to die trying to do it, or I will die trying to do it. The reason that I was drinking and partying so much, it wasn't like because I come from a broken home or grew up around that stuff, or I think a lot of people have legitimate reasons. I didn't have a legitimate reason. So looking back in hindsight, I can see the reason that I did all that stuff was I just have an obsessive personality. And I was also mentally so naive as to not realize what I was doing to myself, and more importantly, what I was doing to others around me, my family and friends. Most importantly, my family, what I was doing to them. I had no idea how it was affecting them. And it wasn't really like a long period of time either. I mean, it was probably like 5 years out of my life that I was doing that. And when I found martial arts, that was just such an easy transition for me, because I just didn't have anything that I loved before that. Like I had no passion, no desire. So when you have nothing to live for, it's like, well, why not go get fucked up all night?
Would you consider yourself an addict when you were heavy on the drugs?
No, I don't think I'm alcoholic. I'm not an addict. I was actually only addicted to one drug. I would say a true addiction once in my life, and that was methamphetamines, crystal meth. And I actually was very fortunate, if you want to say that. I actually ended up going to jail. I got sentenced to 6 months. Did like 3.5 of them or something. And that was what broke my addiction. But that was the first time when I remember sitting in jail, and that was the first time I ever had like withdrawals and was actually like fiending for something. Whereas alcohol, like even in my most partying days, I could drink a case of beer in a night with no problem. And I could quit, just boom, like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it wouldn't phase me, So I don't have that gene, the alcoholic gene. So again, I don't have any excuses for all that. There's people that have that alcoholic gene where, they can't drink a drink and not go drink a case. I didn't have that. So my excuses were completely invalid.
The reason why I asked you about the addiction is because you had like an obsessive personality. And the thing is, I mean, this is coming from you saying that, but me also knowing you, like you're that way with martial arts. Like if you're going to do something, there is nothing less than 100% for you. And I'm kind of the same way. Right. So I'll ask you this question then. If you were obsessive about partying at that point in your life, and that got replaced with fighting, and now you're obsessive about training and fighting at this point in your life, when it comes to retirement, what are you going to replace that obsession with, right? Because obviously you're not going to go back. You're so far beyond that. But what is it that's not that is going to fill this void to keep you from feeling empty?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot, and that's a really great question. To be honest, I haven't found a single thing. I've experimented with many things to see what I do enjoy, and I don't really enjoy anything. I love martial arts. I love training. I love being in the trenches. I don't necessarily enjoy the business. I own a gym, and I don't necessarily enjoy the business of it. The only thing I've come up with so far is money. I might get obsessed with money, and that's a lot of people might say that in a negative way. Like all you care about is money. Like that doesn't have to be a negative thing either. When I say that, I mean there's a lot of ways to make money. I have kids. I have a future that I have to deal with. And there's a lot of ways to make money. There's a lot of fun ways to make money. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. And when I say that, I mean, probably through like real estate, I've purchased a few Airbnbs, and I'm working on some properties for some real estate investments and stuff. And again, like, it's not like real estate is the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
But making money, that is a pretty fun thing. And I'm not going to be obsessed about money or put it over my family or anything like that. Right. That's where it becomes a problem when people start worshiping the money and stuff like that. But making money is a fun thing.
Yeah, I think I get your point. I don't know if you're saying it right, but I think what you like is the challenge of it's the challenge of making the money, right? It's like challenging yourself in a different kind of way. Because I struggled for a couple years after I retired. I didn't train for a while because I was so fed up with the business side of MMA, because I mean, you know how the song says you trade your passion for glory, right? And so it goes from I just want to be in the gym and train and make myself better to I got this contract on the line, these possible endorsements, all these different factors that come into play with this stuff. And you suddenly realize you've drifted so far from where you originally started. And what happened with me is when I retired, I was kind of sick of it all. And so I, walked away for a bit, and by a bit, I mean, I don't know, 5-6 months where I just didn't hardly, go to the gym. And then suddenly I went back in the gym and I realized that I enjoyed training. Like I was back to, let me just work on like what I was talking about earlier in the hour, going to work these leg lock classes and whatnot, because I just like the challenge of learning something new. And so from the martial arts perspective of thing, that satiates me. I've tried to get into other hobbies, different things like, I'm scuba certified. I recently took up skydiving and I love skydiving. It's really fun. And I approach it the same way I approach my martial arts. Like I'm in the air and I'm learning how to fly properly and move around. And so, we'll do these jumps and we'll choreograph things and I run through it just like I treat it just like I did my martial arts. Like there's no such thing as just let's go have fun for me. It doesn't work that way. Right. But I don't feel about anything the way that I felt about training for martial arts in my career. There's not something that's like, I could do this 10 hours a day, every day. And even, you talk about making money, even on the making money side of things, I love my job, man, working for One Championship. I got a great job and this is a good organization. I love what we're doing, but working as an executive is not like being an athlete's my first love. Right. So it's not the same.
And the one thing with martial arts that you can't replace anywhere is when you bleed and sweat with your boys. And then after, when you're sitting there sweating on the mats and puddles of sweat, you got blood running down your mouth, and your boy's right there next to you. He just tried to fucking choke you out. He tried to break your arms, and you tried to do the same to him. Like there's nothing better in the world, right?
And that's what you do to your best friends.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It is complete. Yes. And we do, right? Like I don't have the same respect for any man on this earth I've ever met as much as I do the guys that I bleed and sweat with, right?
Absolutely.
There's just a different level of respect that you can't replace. So I'll always be training. I'll always be on the mats, and I plan on dying on them. The best thing that I've come up with to potentially replace that is I am looking at being a firefighter. And I think that there's a lot of camaraderie there. I think there's like when you run into a burning, falling down building with your boys, I mean, that's going to be a serious rush or you're saving a life of someone. And there's a special camaraderie that comes with that too. And I think I'll get a lot out of that.
Coaching full-time, coaching fighters? No.
I don't know about full-time. Like I will always help my friends, and I will always help guys that I believe are worth helping. Those are so few and far between. I don't know.
So many times I've had people ask me like, why don't you open a school? I'm like, that's just not, it's not a great business model. Like you'll make enough to kind of scrape by in life if you run a good school, otherwise after that, then you're franchising or becoming very commercial. And that's not what guys like you and I are into anyway,
Well, I learned that pretty quickly with opening my school. At first it was like, I'm going to bring all my boys here. We're all going to train, we have great jiu-jitsu, great Muay Thai, all this and that. It didn't take maybe 6 months to a year. And I was like, dude, like, I don't even care about all these fucking adults, man. Like they just, it's not fulfilling. watching people come in for a few weeks, lose a few pounds. There's a few people, that give you some fulfillment. But what really changed me was the kids. Like watching these kids come in. I got so many stories of kids that come in shy, timid, scared, bullied. And then it's not a month later, their chests are puffed out. And they're like, ain't no kids fucking with me at school, and this is creating forks in children's lives. Their life was headed down this road. And I just took them down this road, and their life is never going back the same. That is a very, very fulfilling thing. Taking these kids to the tournaments. We just had one yesterday. We had 3 gold medals. We got, and just with those 3 kids that competed, we got 3rd place at the tournament because they all got golds in both their divisions. Just watching the joy on their faces and the character that it builds. Again, we completely changed their life. And that is a beautiful thing. And that's what I'm about now as a school. And now when people talk about the franchises or turn into McDojos and things like that, it's not as bad as people make it out to be, right? Those kids, like if you're reaching more kids, then it's not a bad thing. Now, if you're bringing them in, you're teaching them bullshit.
Exactly.
Those guys are out there teaching them garbage and not really helping them. That's garbage. But if you're able, it's the same as like when people hate on, say, Metallica for selling out. It's like, no, they're reaching more people. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like more people are being drawn to them. So look, if I go open a franchise gym and I'm reaching more kids and bringing them into the ecosystem of martial arts, that's not a bad thing. As long as I'm maintaining the integrity of the gym.
Amen. Exactly. That's the thing though, but you're your own bottleneck, right? Because you are the quality control of your school. And so you can only handle being the bottleneck, you can only handle so much growth until it gets beyond your control, where you have some douchebag out there running one of your McDojos, and then you step in the dojo and you're like, what is like, what's going on here? This is not our curriculum. This is not what we're about. This is not our ethos. Yeah. This is not our mission, cause what you're talking about with these children. See, man, I think deep down, Matt, you're actually a teacher at heart because you sound like me. That's what drew me to education to begin with when I was teaching high school. And it's the same reason why I don't want to coach people full time either. But if you're in the gym and you're working on something, I'm standing there like, oh, hey, I'm the guy that's like, let me take another half hour out of my day to help you out because you're dedicated to your cause right now, creating a fork in somebody's life. I like the way that you said that. That's an amazing thing. When you talk about like these kids that are shy, timid, being bullied, have you, I'm sure that you have stories. What about kids on the opposite side? They've already gone on the other side of that track. The bullies, the kids that maybe the kids like you that started drinking and getting into partying and drugs, like creating a fork in their life. Have you experienced this in your school, that opposite direction?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a program that we work with called the North Community, and they actually bring kids, troubled kids from the inner cities and put them all in a program together, bring them to the gym. And a lot of those kids are kids that are on the other side, that are the bullies, that are the troublemakers, the guys starting stuff. A lot of these kids, it's amazing to see, man. One kid, I remember he was 12 years old and he told me stories about how he's seen people be shot before. And, it's amazing when you hear what the reality of their life is and why they are the way they are. And it's not always as simple as people make it out to be. And so when you hear stories like that, but they won't open up to their counselors, they're not going to open up to their parents. But when you bring them to a martial arts facility and in that sort of system where, there's a clear hierarchy, and the hierarchy is, you are lesser than me. In a sense, you're lesser than me because I can beat your ass. Yeah. These kids understand that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. You quickly understand the social order, right? The social hierarchy of things when you are literally able to get beaten up for it.
Yes. So these kids exactly what you're saying. And they relate to that and they understand it right away. So they will open up to at least more so to people like us. And when they do get beat up and when they do realize, like one of the things I'll do is I'll take one of the girls and put them with them, one of the smaller girls, maybe a year or two younger than them, and have them choke them out. And they learn real quick, like, okay, I'm not the baddest dude around.
Yeah. Yeah. What you're saying is you're taking one of your experienced girls when a new boy comes in and is like, all right, let me show you the social order of things here, just so you understand how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. I'll do it to a lot of guys too. It's kind of funny when they come in like, yeah, I'm a fighter, I get a lot of, I'm a street fighter. I just need to work on my grappling, or, this kind of guy. Right. So I think you met Adam. He's a 15-year-old kid, 16 now, just turned 16. Just a little stud, man. He got third, I think, in Greco and fourth in freestyle at the nationals. And he's only been wrestling like 3 years. He's won. The first year he was with us, he won like 7 grappling tournaments. This kid, he's just a stud. He's very autistic. We have to kick him out of the gym at night, and we actually stopped kicking him out.
Yeah, he was at my the seminar when I taught a seminar at your place. Yeah, I remember. I remember him. Yeah.
So a lot of times these guys will come in, and I'll be like, okay, well, train with Adam and show me what you got. Right. And I was like, he's only 15, so don't go too crazy with him. Right. And then Adam just beats the crap out of him. I'm like, bro, I thought you said you were a fighter, man. Like,
dude, this is what I do when I go into gyms sometimes, with people now. And I'm like, man, don't break my hip or anything. Like, I'm old man now, you know what I mean? Because, but I don't know. It doesn't work out too well for me because I'm actually probably in better shape now than I was during my career,
Really?
Not conditioning wise, obviously, like I can't maintain that level of conditioning, but when it comes to, for example, like grappling and sparring, you can always work, like conditioning can be changed in weeks, but when it comes to technique, I actually think I'm cleaner now than I was 10 years ago. 12 years ago when I was fighting because I'm smarter about the way that I go about things, particularly when my conditioning, like when I'm not conditioned, I might only be good for 2 or 3 rounds. And you have to like be very picky, and like you have to choose, particularly when you're grappling against higher level guys, like where you're going to expend your energy. So you have to be really smart when you're playing around. And so, yeah. So yeah,
it's like one of those things where if I take, we overthink things as fighters. I think a lot, we overanalyze and overthink, and we're constantly working on new things. We're like, okay, I got that, so I'll work on new thing. And then I take maybe 2-3 weeks off the gym, and then I come back and be like, dude, I'm about to get my ass kicked. And then I have an amazing session because I'm more relaxed. I have less expectations. I'm not trying to do something special. And
I've had days like that where I've been out of the gym, like maybe I've been traveling back and forth, and I've been out of the gym like consistently for say 3 months, and then I come back in and I do my first sparring session, and I'm just on point, timing, everything's on, and people are like, "What? Hold on, I thought you were just traveling for 3 months. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. It's just how it goes."
Yeah, that's actually, I just felt that today because I was sick all last week, and I got back today like shit, man. Like this is gonna be miserable. These guys are gonna beat the hell out of me. And I just go in and I felt great, man. And everything, just letting your body rest a little bit. And, it's an amazing thing. And that's what I try to do before my fights now, is try to get that feeling and where you have that more open mind too, right? Because again, you get so focused on the fight. You get so focused on your game plan, your strategy. What am I going to do? What punches am I going to throw? You visualize it so many times. And I think I've gotten better over the years, learning to just let that go, especially like the last week. And now when I go out to fight week, it's all just soak this in, man. Like this shit's going to end one day. Like you got to embrace this, love it. Like when my butterflies start kicking in, I'm like, I just take a deep breath and put a smile on my face. Like this is what it's all about, man. And now when I walk out to the arena, I look around, I see the crowd, and I'm like, dude, this is so fucking beautiful, man. This is the greatest thing on this planet. How could you not just love this? And, I think it's done me well.
I'm take you full circle on this here. we were talking about the kids before. Think about the Matt Brown you were at the age of 20 or 25 or whatever. And then like, it's like, listen to you speak now. And you have this responsibility to, for example, these like kids or fans that are watching, you know, did you ever think that the younger version of you, what do you think the younger version of you would say to the older version of you, or vice versa, if if you guys met each other?
I'd probably think I was a pussy.
The younger version of you?
Like the younger version of me looking at my version of me right now, I'd be like, he's a fucking pussy. He's not, he's got a house and he's got businesses. He's a fucking pussy. He's not in the gym 24 hours a day, bleeding and sweating.
But then the older version of you would stomp the crap out of the younger version of you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, but I'd get this shit beat out of me and be like, hey, he's still a pussy. Yeah, I'll get him one day. I remember one time, I think I told you this before also, you said to me, you have to treat it like a business, right?
Yeah.
I remember that specific term you saying to me. And at that moment, I apologize, Rich, but I lost so much respect for you right then. Now, over time, I've gained that respect back, and I was like, God, he was right that whole time. But at the time, I was like, what do you mean treat it like a business? I'm a fucking warrior. Like, I don't do business.
Dude, study any warrior in history, right? When somebody's going to go into battle, they have to make even the Bible talks about this. You're going to go into battle and you have to count your soldiers and know your resources before you go into battle. And if you can't make it, then you need to form alliances with somebody in order to win that battle. And you got to treat it like a business. Otherwise, if you're just like, you go hardcore,
The movie 300, if you think about this, they were talking about the Athenians, and he was like, they're more brawlers than warriors, right? And that was a great line where it was like, they're tough, they're savage, they come out and they fight, but they ain't got no technique, no strategy, and that's a huge part of being a warrior. It's not that, but that's how I came up. I was a brawler. I thought I was a warrior, but I was a brawler. And over the years, I think I've developed more of that warrior mindset. Like the Musashi mindset.
And, oh yeah. Love that book. 5 Rings.
Yeah. That's my shit. I got it tattooed on my arm. Musashi.
Yeah. That's one on my shelf.
Nice.
Book 5 Rings. So
yeah. It would be on my shelf, but actually my son is reading it right now.
Yeah. How are your boys, by the way?
Oh, they're amazing, man. I got my boys are the best kids anybody could ever ask for, man. They spent the whole summer. They've made over $600 this summer, mowing lawns, pulling weeds. Just so much respect for that, man. But, it's so funny because I walk around, like when I was a kid, I would do the same. I would go, my summers were my fucking money makers, summers and when school was canceled for snow, right? Those are the money makers. And you go around, you don't see any kids going, I haven't had a single kid knock on my door to mow my lawn. It's unreal. I'm like, where are all you kids at? Why aren't you out trying to work? And my kids are out all the time. They took some of their money, invested and bought some business cards. They started on the Facebook, they started promoting themselves, and they're like I said, they made $600, and they're only with me every other week. They're with their mom the other weeks, and they made $600 a piece. By the way, that's $1,200 total, and they go out and they smash it, man. So I just absolutely am blown away by that.
Well, all the other kids are working on being influencers, man. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I wouldn't expect anything less out of your boys like that, man. For real, like especially knowing you. I mean, you're a hard worker anyway, so I would assume that you've instilled that in them. Well, look, man, how can people, get a hold of you if they want to get, I don't know, for example, a nutritional plan or something like that? Like, which website should they go to get one of your specified nutritional plans?
Well, if they want a nutritional plan, there's much better people to follow than me. And I would suggest, by the way, I would suggest at BioLane. Lane Norton? You follow him?
I don't know, but I will.
Oh, he's one of the best, man. I work with him personally a lot on stuff. He's just a brilliant, brilliant guy. And I suggest anyone go to him or Dr. Andy Galpin if anybody wants more technical stuff. I don't know. Do you know Dr. Galpin?
I know. Yeah. I know of him. I've not met him personally.
Yeah. Okay. So if anybody wants like more detailed breakdowns of nutrition, how it works, why it works, and things like that, Dr. Galpin's one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met in my life. I mean, I can barely even talk to him. Pisses me off. Like, how are you so smart? Like, one of those guys. It just makes me angry. So don't follow me for nutritional advice.
No, I'm not. I really wasn't. I was making a joke. I'm just trying. This is your ability to like feed your socials and your website.
I'm supposed to be pumping my socials now, right? Yeah. Well, my socials.
Listen, this is awesome. I'm like, I give you the floor, Matt, to like pump your socials, and then you've already sold two other people to the guests. Listen, if the challenge of making money is your next obsession, I'm gonna have to help you with that, because you just did strike 1 and 2 right there.
Hey, the more you give, the more you get, right?
Amen, man. For real.
So you can follow me at I Am The Immortal, Instagram and Twitter. I think that's my Twitter, facebook.com/I Am The Immortal. Or I'll probably post more on my personal page, Matt Brown, but I haven't added a friend in probably 10 years. So you probably won't get on that.
Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on today, Matt. It's always good catching up, just chatting
Absolutely.
and whatnot. And we'll have to get together sooner than later.
Anytime, man. Love it.
Quite Franklin is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor legal advice, nor a statement of Quite Franklin policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of that product or entity by Rich Franklin or Quite Franklin. The views expressed by guests on the podcast are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Quite Franklin employees or representatives are the views and opinions of the persons expressing them, and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Quite Franklin or any of its officials or principals. Nothing heard on this podcast at any time is medical advice or is intended as medical advice. The listener must always consult his or her personal physician or other qualified medical professional regarding any questions of a medical nature. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our general counsel.